In all of the hustle and bustle of the OTAs and, of course, contract talks, guys like Christian McCaffrey, third in Juwan, getting deals done. A boast of new additions to the team in terms of veterans, undrafted free agents, thinking of like Logan Thomas, the most recent veteran to get signed. All the rookies from the draft also taking a ton of energy out of the media landscape. There's just a lot going out there. And of course, the biggest one, the big one, if and how a deal gets done with Brandon Aiyuk, keeping this offensive core completely together going into this next season, making another run for the Super Bowl. One individual has largely been forgotten in the media landscape, at least. We've talked about him on this channel several times, and all the local guys don't forget about him, but it seems as though we've forgotten about how good of a pickup this was before all of the craziness of the last month and a half or so. At least one analyst is calling this the biggest pickup of the offseason. I can't wait to get into all of it with you. Later in the video, I'm going to tell you what his coach had to say, what his teammates think about him, and how this is spelling good news for the San Francisco 49ers going for another one, heading back to the big game this year. If you're new here, I'm Nate, and we are talking the San Francisco 49ers every single day on this channel. It really helps me out if you'd hit that subscribe button. Thank you to all of you up there. We're up over above 2,600 subscribers. Thank you so much for hitting that sub button, for joining the community, joining the conversation, getting in on the comments, on the community posts, all that good stuff. So much fun doing that with you. And to put it quick, here's the good news in a nutshell, and then I promise there's more later on in the video, so stick around to the end. The good news is this: Coach Kocurek laid out his impressions on Leonard Floyd, including discussing his unique talents, how he's watched him in the league over the years, how he's going to utilize his strengths. That's a really interesting one. And I think it all spells G-O-O-D news for the San Francisco 49ers trying to get to the passer this season, and of course, hopefully an improvement in the run game. David Bonilla of the 49ers Web Zone. I love David Bonilla's articles. I'm a big fan. He does a great job of bringing lots of quotes together, does a great job of putting great analysis out there, all from a local's perspective. He called Leonard Floyd the biggest offseason addition. And I guess we're at that point in the season, right? Where we can, or in the offseason, I should say, where we're kind of like not expecting a lot of big changes to happen unless somebody gets injured during training camp. Knocking on wood there. And I think it's a fun time of the season that you can actually kind of say that now. Who was the biggest pickup of the offseason? And I suppose even if you include rookies in there, this is an interesting argument that could be made here. And I'm not saying that that's what Bonilla is saying, but at the very least, and this is his quote, the biggest offseason addition, providing a pass rushing presence to complement All-Pro Nick Bosa. It'd be hard to argue with that, by the way. Leonard Floyd, 9-year veteran, biggest defensive pickup this offseason. It makes sense, right? If you look at his stats, it makes sense. It makes sense from a lot of perspectives. But what did everybody have to say about Leonard Floyd? And how does it impact where we're at here? And I just realized I didn't pull it up on the screen. Give me 3 seconds. I'm going to pull it up here. While I'm pulling it up, actually, that was faster than I thought. I was going to tell you other stuff. Didn't need to. So starting with Nick Bosa, I think he's a super skilled rusher. I think we've talked about this quote maybe once. Good length, and he's more athletic than I even realized. And I think guys like him, when they come to our scheme, the best is brought out of them. So I'm excited to see what potential he has. He's year 9, so I feel like as a D lineman, you can keep improving all the way through 10 years in this league. So I'm excited to see what he's got. Of course, in the last 4 years, I think I've got this stat up too. I could pull it up. In the last 4 years, he's had at least 9 sacks, and 2 of those being 10.5 sack seasons. That is pretty solid. Not going to disagree with Nick Bosa on that front. If he improves one more time, that would be pretty fantastic for this 49ers defense. On Nick Bosa, Leonard Floyd said, "I believe our skill sets will complement each other well. We have both been guys who've been getting sacks in this league. I'm just going to come in and do my job." This is what you want to hear, by the way, of any veteran signing with your team. I'm going to come in, I'm going to do my job, do my part, and that's to come in to help him affect the game and get pressure on the quarterback. And you know all the storylines are going to be coming. They're going to be the storylines around, is Nick Bosa going to be the is this going to be like a back and forth? They're fighting for sack numbers. And we've seen that over the years with when you've had a team with two really solid defensive ends and they're kind of in a competition or whatever. I don't think there's much of a competition here, but that'll be part of the conversation as it comes. So just expect that. But let's keep going because it gets even better. What was it? David Bonilla. Yeah, he wrote an article recently about how this is mentioned, how Kris Kocurek had been looking at Leonard Floyd back in 2016 at his Georgia Pro Day and had his eyes on him from then to now. Kris Kocurek was talking to Matt Barrows from The Athletic, and so that's where some of this is coming from here. I thought he was the most explosive rusher in the draft. That'd be the 2016 draft, Kocurek told Barrows. As I've said in the past, anybody that's caught my eye that I really thought had the talent to play in our scheme, I keep up with them in the NFL. This is back when Kocurek was with the Lions, by the way. And things always circled back around, and it's circled back around with him. I've always kept an eye on him and just really liked the way he played the game, the love, the passion, and the talent behind it. Continuing on, last year in Buffalo, he played 50-50 between a 2-point and a 3-point stance. In LA with the Rams, it was more of a 2-point deal. Early in his career in Chicago, he was more of a 2-point player. We'll do a little bit of both with him. Talking about the stance, by the way, 2-point stance versus 3-point stance. Sometimes we'll stand him up like you saw D Ford in 19 and 20, standing up on the edge. Anytime a player is really good at something, I'd be an idiot to take it away from him and say you can't do that. We're always known as a hand in the dirt defense. But when you have a unique skill set that can excel from a 2-point stance, you don't want to just totally take away that from a player. And I want to say a couple things about this. Firstly, it's obvious that Coach Kocurek has high value in what he sees in this individual from the very beginning, from 2016 to now. So cool that it circles back for him, that he gets to work with the guy, that gets to actually see him in the flesh on his team, on his training ground all the time, where coaches want to see their players. You know what I mean? And working with him in the background along the way. I love this, though. This is something that not all coaches do in the NFL. There are, of course, system guys, right? You show up, you're in my system, you fit my system, right? And then there are the guys that kind of work the system around the players. And maybe, if we're totally honest, all coaches to some extent work the system around the players. But there are guys like Kyle Shanahan that they have a clear system and they know exactly what they're going to do. And although their system changes and evolves, it isn't so adaptable to the players. Although, man, I say that and then I'm like, well, but it really has been, hasn't it? In the last few years, just in how he's used Debo and how he's used Christian McCaffrey. So I say that and then I'm like, maybe that, I don't know. Maybe I'm coming back on my opinion on that. Let me know what you think in the comments about that. But whatever the case is, right, there are guys that are out there working their systems, and they should. That's their job. They're the coach. They should do that. But it is also important to recognize a player's strengths and be able to work with a player's strengths to get the most out of them, right? As long as it doesn't cost you in the end. And I think what the 49ers are really anticipating this year and working toward is trying to improve on the run defense. That's the one that they felt they really needed during big key moments last season that they didn't always have. And if they can improve consistency in run defense, that would be massive for us. Of course, I think in addition to that, though, having two guys coming off the side is always going to help you. If they're good at the outside contain, then they're good. And he's a solid 9-year veteran. Floyd knows what he's doing, and I'm not at all worried in that particular realm about his ability to manage that. So getting to the passer, that's the big one that we're expecting out of Leonard Floyd. We're not expecting him to come in and make a big impact. Although those edge rushers they always play a bigger role in run defense than I feel like people want to talk about. It's really easy to just focus on if they're getting to the quarterback or not, which does help in the pass defense, for sure. It's a part of the gig. It's a part of the process. You do have to put pressure on the quarterback, but But that being said, I don't think that they're the guys that, you're expecting to get all of those tackles in run defense, right? And it depends who you're playing against, how they like to run the ball. There are a lot of factors there, all right? We're going to start getting into the weeds if we go down there. Overall, I'm feeling really positive about how Kocurek is seeing him, how he's willing to kind of go his way a little bit and let him stand up a little bit, be in that 2-point stance at times in order to make sure he's getting the most bang for his buck out of Leonard Floyd. Because whatever he gets out of Floyd, we've talked about this in this channel, whatever you get out of Floyd is a benefit to Bosa. I don't care so much about the numbers. Like if Floyd has 2 sacks and Bosa doesn't have a pressure or only has a couple pressures maybe in one game or something, then I'm not going to freak out about that. I think media will make something out of that, but that's a positive because it just means that when you're setting up for the next round, you're, oh my gosh, dude, I'm playing against the 49ers. How are we going to protect our quarterback against these guys? That's the kind of feeling you want to give the next team on that's coming up next week. So hopefully that's what we see this season. I think that's what we're going to see this season. I think all of that better pass rush will also have that added benefit, rising tides lift all boats kind of deal, where you will see a benefit in the run defense just because of the pressure it puts on the quarterback, how they can destroy the pocket, all that good stuff. There's so much to be excited about. As always, what a time to be alive.